he shoots.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful, Kate.
Yeah, thank you.
He's going to talk now.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Tech Tuesday. And we finished off a series last week. We're going to start a new one this week. And again, I've drawing from questions that I've had from a few customers. And something that seems to be coming up quite often just recently is the story about cholesterol. And people intrigue me because I ask them if they've got any chronic conditions. No chronic conditions. I just have blood pressure medication and cholesterol medication that I take regularly, but I don't have any chronic conditions. Well, cholesterol is one of those chronic conditions, but cholesterol isn't actually the enemy, or is it? And I decided to go in a little bit more, and whenever I do any of these talks, it's because I get asked questions, and sometimes I'm not always 100% sure of the answer, so I go do the research, and then I put it through, because as they say, if you want to learn something, teach it. And that's why I'm learning this at the same time. So let me share my screen over here and get all these bits and pieces out of the way. So the question is, what is cholesterol? Is it an enemy or isn't it? And the next question is, what does it actually do? If it's that bad and they keep trying to find ways to stop it, what does it actually do? Well, cholesterol is a waxy substance found throughout the body. You're not going to get away from it. It's not bad unless you have too much of it. And as I've always said, what the toxicologist will tell you is the poison is in the dose. Too much of anything is bad for you. Too much water is bad for you. Too much oxygen is bad for you. So too much cholesterol is bad for you. But your body needs it to build cells and make vitamins and other hormones. So if you are trying to do everything you can to prevent cholesterol or stop cholesterol, you're probably doing yourself a bit of a disservice. But as I've said, too much can cause a problem. Now, cholesterol comes from two different sources. Your liver makes all the cholesterol you need. So if you never ever put one crumb of food across your lips again that contains cholesterol, your body will still produce its own. So you're not going to get away from it. The remainder of the cholesterol in your body comes from foods, from animals. So in other words, animal-sourced foods. For example, things like meat, poultry, and dairy products all contain dietary cholesterol. These same foods can also be high in saturated and trans fats. These fats can increase the cholesterol in your body, and this is where it starts to become a problem. For some people, this added cholesterol means they go from a normal cholesterol level to one that's unhealthy. And some tropical oils, such as palm oil, palm kernel oil, and coconut oil, contain saturated fat that can increase bad cholesterol. And these oils are often found in baked goods. You know, all those nice things, the donuts, the pies, that kind of thing. But why does the cholesterol matter? So the cholesterol circulates in the blood. And as long as it's circulating, it's not a problem. As I like to describe at times, think of your kitchen sink. You can pour oil down there, that oil that you use to fry chips. You can pour that down your kitchen sink. It's not a problem. As long as it goes down the pipes and out, it's not a problem. It's when it starts to build up in the pipe. And again, the first few liters, it's not going to make a difference. But it builds up and it oxidizes and it eventually narrows the pipe. And suddenly you pour water down there and your drain is blocked because of the oil that's been building up and building up and building up. As long as it's flowing, it's fine. Exactly the same as cholesterol. As long as the cholesterol is circulating in the blood, it's fine. It's not the enemy. As the amount of cholesterol in your blood increases, however, so does the risk to your health. High cholesterol contributes to a higher risk of cardiovascular diseases, such as heart disease and stroke. And that's why it's important to have your cholesterol tested so that you know what your levels are. Always know your figures. Now, there are two types of cholesterol, namely the LDL, which is bad, and HDL, which is good. So think of the H standing for helpful. So if it's LDL, not good. HDL, helpful, good. So too much of the bad kind, as always, or not enough of the good kind, increases the risk of cholesterol, which will slowly build up in the inner walls of the arteries, or increases the risk of the cholesterol will slowly build up in the inner walls of the arteries, such as those that feed the heart and the brain. Think of that fat that's congealing in your kitchen sink, and it's slowly but surely making the little hole where the water's going through smaller and smaller and smaller. So that's where that risk comes about. Cholesterol can join with other substances to form a thick, hard deposit on the inside of the arteries. Again, think of butter. If you heat butter up, it's fluid, it's liquid, it floats all over the place. But you pour that down your kitchen sink and it solidifies. And then that's where the problems come about. So this narrows the arteries and makes them less flexible, which is a condition known as arteriosclerosis. So anytime you hear that word, you know that's your pipes that have become inflexible. Think of your car engine. All those little pipes that you see running around there, as long as they're flexible, the oil and the water and everything else can float around the engine quite nicely. But if they become hard and brittle, you then have a problem. And this can lead to a blood clot forming, which can block one of these narrowed arteries, causing a heart attack or stroke. So if you look at this, you will see it's not the cholesterol that's the enemy. So when the cholesterol oxidizes, and that causes your blood to slow down, and when blood slows down or stops moving, it's going to clot. The clot on its own isn't a problem. Clot becomes a problem when it acts like a plug. Again, kitchen sink, water going down the drain, not a problem. You can pour 100 liters of water down the drain. As long as it's going down, it's not a problem. Put a plug, whether it's a clogged pipe, whether it's your little rubber plug that you stick in, whether it's a cloth that you put in the drain area. Put a plug in there, and your 100 liters of water isn't going to work so well in a 10-liter sink. It's going to get very messy. The same as a clot in your arteries. As long as it's moving, it's not a problem. When it stops moving, it's a problem. Blood needs to move. So what are your healthy cholesterol levels? Know your figures. So we look at these figures and some big numbers over here. So your total, so we look at the LDL and the HDL, and we get your total. So if your total cholesterol is 240 and higher, you're in trouble. And that means that your LDL, your dangerous cholesterol, is 160 and higher, and your HDL, your helpful, is less than 40 in males and less than 50 in females. If you are at risk, your total cholesterol is between 200 and 239. Again, 100 to 159, 40 to 59 is HDL, 50 to 59 is female. Your healthy is a total cholesterol of under 200. So your LDL should be less than 100 and your HDL should be 60 and higher. Just like the bacteria in your gut, there's good and bad. You want more of the good than the bad. Same with the cholesterol. You want more of the good than the bad. Get my face out of the way over here. The optimal level is measured in milligrams per deciliter of blood, which is the mg/dl, for each of the 4 standard tests in a lipid panel. And they are as follows. The total cholesterol should be below 200 milligrams per deciliter. The HDL needs to be above 60 milligrams per deciliter, and the LDL ideally should be below 100 milligrams. For people who have diabetes, however, this needs to be below 70 milligrams. And your triglycerides need to be below 150 milligrams per deciliter. And the only way to tell these figures is through blood tests. A relatively simple blood test. If you go to your doctor and you say, listen, I think my cholesterol levels could be at risk, he's going to order a blood test. Usually just a simple one. If they see that you are the sort of the bottom end of the at risk or the bottom end of the dangerous levels, they're going to tell you to have a fasting blood test done, meaning that you don't eat or drink for about at least 12 hours beforehand. And then you have the blood test done, and then they can get a better idea of where and what the problem is. So if your results are higher or lower than the target range, they may be classified as borderline, intermediate, or high risk for cardiovascular issues. In general, higher than normal levels of total cholesterol, which is your LDL and triglycerides, and lower than normal levels of HDL can increase your risk of cardiovascular disease. In the medical field, we always talk about risk. So there's nowhere do they say, if you have a cholesterol level of 240, you are going to get a blood clot and die from a heart attack or a stroke. They will say that your risk is very high. It's rare to have abnormally low levels of cholesterol. Remember, your liver is going to create the cholesterol that you need. But if you do have this, it's usually due to a health condition that's causing malnutrition. So what are some of these high cholesterol diseases that you can succumb to? High cholesterol is a condition in which you have too many lipids or fats in your blood. It's also called hyperlipidemia or hypercholesterolemia. Don't worry about the fancy big words and terms over here. Your doctor will simply tell you you've got high cholesterol or not. Your body needs just the right amount of lipids to function. Again, remember with nature, everything needs to be in balance. You don't want too much of one, too little of something else. It needs to be in balance. So if you have too many lipids, your body can't use them all. And the extra lipids start to build up in your arteries because what your body's not using and it can't get rid of, for whatever reason, it's going to put into storage. If you have a bit of a crowded garage like mine, you'll know that you get something because you need to use it now, but maybe it was too many things. So you needed 3 screws, so you bought a packet of 10 or 20, and you put them on one side. But next week, you need another 3 screws, but you couldn't find the last one, so you go out and buy another packet of 20, and you keep going. Or in my case, I inherited a whole lot of tools from my late father and my late brother-in-law. So suddenly I've got this large amount of tools in my garage, and I don't like getting rid of things. But they build up and build up to the stage where suddenly you can't get your car in the garage. I can still get my car in my garage for now, just by the way. But that's the sort of thing. So if your body can't use the lipids or the fats in your system and is not getting rid of them for whatever reason, because your fiber is low or whatever, it's going to store them, and it stores them in your arteries. There they combine with other substances in your blood to form plaque or fatty deposits. Think of the plaque that forms on your teeth. Same sort of thing happens in your arteries. This plaque might not cause any problems for years, but over time, the plaque silently gets bigger and bigger within your arteries, which is why they call heart disease the silent killer, because unless you're doing specific tests, they call it a Doppler test, so suddenly there's a sign that your leg swells up or it's cramping or something along those lines, and you think, oh, hang, there's a problem. Your doctor will order a test called a Doppler test to see what the circulation is like in your legs, or they'll order special x-rays and things, and only then do they see what that there's a blockage or a buildup. Because just by taking a blood, you're not going to see where that plaque is building up. Unless, of course, you suck some of it out when you're getting the blood. But generally, you're not going to see those build up in your arteries. There will be other signs, which I'll get into, but you're not going to see the plaque building up, causing the problem. And that is why untreated high cholesterol, high LDL cholesterol is dangerous. These extra lipids in your blood help make the plaque bigger without you even knowing it, because it's a slow but sure buildup. The only way to know if you have high cholesterol is through a blood test. So now we have the good versus the bad cholesterol. And as we said, there are several types of lipids. The main ones you've probably heard about are good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. The good cholesterol is called HDL, or high density lipoprotein. Think of the H as meaning helpful. As I said earlier, your HDLs carry cholesterol to your liver. Your liver keeps your cholesterol levels balanced. It makes enough cholesterol to support your body's needs and gets rid of the rest. And just like oil and water going down your drain, as long as the hot water is getting rid of the fat that's in the drain, everything is hunky-dory and it's going to flow through nicely. But if you now suddenly run cold water down the drain when you're pouring oil down there or melted butter, now you're going to have a problem because it's not processing. So you must have enough HDLs to carry the cholesterol to your liver. If your HDLs are too low, you'll have too much cholesterol circulating in your blood. Bad cholesterol is called low-density lipoprotein, or LDL. And this is the culprit that makes plaque form in your arteries. Having too many LDLs can lead to heart disease over time. It's not going to just suddenly happen. Just like an overnight success often takes upwards of 10 years to become that instant overnight success, heart disease can do the same thing. You don't just suddenly wake up with high cholesterol. It's been building up for some time, and you've probably been ignoring the signs. And this is where I really like Dr. Jim McAfee's book called Your Body's Sign Language, because in there it tells you all about the different signs and symptoms that you need to look out for in your body to indicate too much or too little of various nutrients. So when do you need to get your cholesterol levels checked? High cholesterol can start in childhood or adolescence. More so today with today's lifestyle of junk food, sedentary lifestyle, sitting in front of a computer or sitting on your phone, exercising your thumbs only. Kids aren't always allowed to be kids anymore. So they spend a lot of time indoors and not exercising. And that's where it starts. And then they also eat a lot of junk food. So that's why current guidelines suggest beginning screenings during childhood. Children and teens should get your cholesterol checked every 5 years, starting at age 9. A child whose parents have high cholesterol or a history of heart problems may begin even sooner. So this is where it's good to know your family history. If you know that a parent or a grandparent had problems with cholesterol or heart problems, it's good to get checked regularly. Just like your car, often liken our bodies to a car. You don't take your car to the garage when it starts driving down the road and it's jerking and it's missing and there's no power. You take your car to the garage at least once a year or every 15,000 kilometers to get checked. And I will admit on this, from that perspective, I probably look after my car better than I look after myself. Just because I'm one of those people that I tell other people what to do and I don't always listen to my own advice. You know what happens then? Yeah, we won't go there. But if you know of a family history of cholesterol issues or cardiac issues, get checked regularly. And as they say, every 5 years. We're not talking every year. So don't stress about the fact that, oh, it's going to cost me a fortune in doctor's fees. It is a simple blood test. Just like you save up for your car service, you save up for your service and get your blood tested and heart tested, etc. In males, you need to get your cholesterol checked every 5 years until age 45. And from age 45 to 65, you should get checked every 1 to 2 years. After age 65, get checked every year, especially if you have a known history. Females should get checked every 5 years until the age of 55. From age of 55 to 65, get checked every 1 to 2 years. After the age of 65, just like males, get checked every year. Not too sure about you, but I know for myself, this does not happen for myself. And these are the general guidelines. Your healthcare provider will discuss what's best for you. Remember, not every treatment works for every person. What works for you quite possibly won't work for me, and vice versa. So make friends with your doctor. He is your primary healthcare provider just for the checks. Prevention is a whole lot less painful and cheaper than cure. Think about if you get diagnosed with a blockage and they tell you, hang on, you've got blocked arteries around your heart, you need a triple bypass. I can tell you that that's going to cost you somewhere in the region of between, I would guess, 300 to 400,000 Rand or more. Having your blood pressure checked, your heart rate checked, and your blood checked for cholesterol is probably going to cost you less than 1,000 Rand. 1,000 Rand as opposed to 400,000 Rand, you decide which is cheaper and less traumatic. So for example, someone in their 20s with high cholesterol numbers may need yearly tests for a while. People with other heart disease risk factors may need more frequent tests too. Pardon me. See, I've got a couple of minutes to play with. So what are some of the causes of high cholesterol? Lifestyle factors and genetics both play a role in causing high cholesterol. And lifestyle factors include things like smoking and tobacco use. Smoking lowers your HDL and raises your LDL. You can choose to smoke or not. Being under a lot of stress. Stress triggers hormonal changes that cause your body to produce extra cholesterol. You can choose to control your stress. Drinking alcohol. Too much alcohol in your body can raise your total cholesterol. You can choose to drink or not to drink. Not moving around enough. Physical activity like aerobic exercise improves your cholesterol numbers. If you have a desk job or sit a lot in your free time, your body won't produce enough good cholesterol. And you can choose to sit still all day or not, unless you are confined to a wheelchair. Diet. Some foods may raise or lower your cholesterol. Be aware of what you're eating. And sometimes healthcare providers will recommend dietary changes or a visit with a nutritionist or dietitian to discuss your diet. And that's where I'm going to stop for now, because we've got a few minutes. But I'd like to open up and just see, does anybody have any questions or comments before I stop the recording? And then I'll open mic and you can fire away some more.